I canceled the hotel reservations for his daughter's wedding less than 30 days before. It started off bad. I got the call in April. "Hello, I'm Greg Martinez. I'm a lawyer in Washington, D.C. My daughter is getting married on September 7th, and I need to hold 10 rooms." The conversation lasted 30 minutes, during which I learned Greg was a lawyer. X3. His daughter was getting married. X2. The wedding venue was a nearby boutique hotel. The venue was expensive, so he was hoping to save money booking at my place. He didn't want to reserve the rooms. He wanted me to hold them for his family to book individually. X2. Since they were taking the entire house, he wanted a group discount. X5. I informed him that there would be no discounts of any kind for that time period, as the local football team was scheduled for a home game. I also required 2-night stays. I tried to sound firm to discourage haggling, but it was an uphill battle. About half of the conversation was composed of repeated requests and denials. At the end of the call, I promised to hold the rooms, but required a signed contract and a deposit. So, I typed up a contract for the first time ever. The entire time, I was very conscious that he was a lawyer and pushy for favorable terms. I sent the contract to him, hoping not to hear back. But the signed contract was sent back the next day. I updated the computer to reflect the deal. I also left a copy of the contract at the computer for staff to review. The next day, Greg's mother called. I spent 15 minutes explaining to her that she had to book 2 nights to satisfy the contract, but eventually she declined. The next day, she called back and made a 1-night reservation with an employee. I was annoyed. When I discovered the mistake, I decided to let it slide. But I locked the room block so that only I could book more rooms. Over the next week, I had many conversations with Greg's family. It was always the same. "I want 1 night, just like grandma, and group discounts are really what we deserve." I resisted these demands to much frustration. I was spending a lot of time explaining the contract to the family, but they had difficulty understanding. Over the next few months, I had many more conversations with Greg and family. If they couldn't get discounts, they wanted upgrades or special favors. The entitlement and persistence were making me anxious and angry. More than one told me that the customer is always right. Infuriating. We had a deal. Greg, in particular, was maddening. We had 3 conversations specifically about 1-night room requests. His logic said that since I had already agreed to one exception, there was some kind obligation/expectation that more should follow. I am not a lawyer, and I think he intended to exploit my ignorance. But I remained firm and increasingly angry. 28 days before the reservation, we had another phone call. Greg was hoping for wedding amenities, something I didn't offer, by which he meant provide us flowers and champagne. This was to be instead of a group discount, which was still an expectation, somehow, months later. I was done, feeling exploited and bullied. "Let me see what my wife thinks," I said. I found my wife and asked her to find the deposit that was required by the contract. The Martinez family money no longer mattered to me. I wanted to find a loophole in the contract. I wanted out. After 2 hours of very, very detailed searching, my wife came back and told we never deposited a deposit check. It was past due. My emotions suddenly became a jumble of joy and malice. I spent 5 minutes writing an email to Greg explaining that he'd failed the contract and that his family was no longer welcome to patronize my business. I clicked send. I felt liberated. I no longer cared about being sued or being a bad host. I canceled the reservations and opened up the rooms to be booked. Every member of Greg's family got a cancellation email with the notation, "Ask Greg Martinez about these circumstances. He can embarrass himself with my input." I fully expected blowback, but there were no more communications with the Martinez family, except one missive months later. A Martinez, in response to a marketing email, let me know how put out they were having to try to find rooms at the last minute on a busy football weekend. They had to stay out of town and rent a bus. I was a horrible, terrible person. This just made my day. It's important to remember that the customer is always right. It's equally important to remember that not everybody is a customer. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to my channel. There are many great stories for you on my channel. Thank you for watching.